Hi Laura, let's take a look at this set of essays. It's an interesting topic. It wants the causes and the problems. A lot of people don't really pay close attention to this and they end up writing about something else. So they write about the reasons they write about something that they're not supposed to. So let's see what you did here, okay? Nowadays, more often than not, people have been influenced by the consumeristic society. This has led to a okay, so you're trying to make it a verb here. It sounds a little strange. This has led to, yeah, it just doesn't feel right. It has led to decrease. Because we don't really usually say that. We would say this has caused a decrease or this has led to a decrease in the lifespan. It feels like a much more natural way to use this expression, okay? Like gadgets or cars. Personally, I believe this is the result of a globalized and materialistic society, as well as the industry having less quality in order to cover the high demand. Undoubtedly, the environment has suffered most of the consequences with this modern lifestyle. All right, so far so good. There's no doubt that the industrial and digital revolution transformed the way we live. As globalization emerged, more products and goods have been reaching more countries. All right, there's something weird with the grammar here. So I'm not really sure what you're trying to say here. There is no doubt that the industrial and digital revolution transformed the way we live. Now, do you mean as, like since? That's what I'm unclear about. So, since globalization emerged, so I'm really confused here. It's the as which is creating a problem. Maybe what you really wanted here was a semicolon. Okay, so that way it would be like you have two separate sentences which are, or rather two separate ideas, but they're kind of linked together. So maybe that's what you meant. All right, let's try it like that. So let's act like this is a semicolon here, and I'll read it one more time. There's no doubt that the industrial and digital revolution transformed the way we live. As globalization emerged, you could have put a comma here, more products and goods have been reaching more countries. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think this is what you meant. With a greater number of goods available in the market and a more competitive industry, society has become much more materialistic than it used to be, as we are constantly bombarded with new devices or products. Okay, again, you know what? There's something happening with your use of as. I want you to watch it here, okay? Here, I almost feel like it needs to be a new sentence, because as it is, it's a very long sentence. Look, it starts all the way here, and then you continued it all the way down here, but my suggestion is to stop it somewhere around here probably, okay? So let's try that again. With a greater number of goods available in the market and a more competitive industry, society has become much more materialistic as it used to be, as we are constantly bombarded with new products or new devices or products, full stop. Additionally, it is believed that quality has decreased the lifespan of goods. Quality has decreased and the lifespan of goods has been reduced to force people to buy the latest or more up-to-date product. For example, recent research has revealed that modern cars tend to last 40 times less than previous generations, and the same happens with technological devices where changes in software usually slow down or damage previous models. Thus, it is clear that as the world has become more globalized, some people tend to be more materialistic, and the industry has been taking advantage of this trend by decreasing quality and forcing people to get the latest product. Okay. Okay, so I read this paragraph a couple more times just to make sure I understood it. What I was doing basically I was trying to locate what your main ideas were. And then where your support was for those ideas. And here's what's going on. So here you say that we have become much more materialistic than we used to be, as we were constantly bombarded with new products or devices. So here, what I would have liked is for you to support this with some sort of evidence, some sort of example, some sort of illustration of what you're talking about. I would have liked that right here. And then here you do that. Okay, you have this idea about the cars lasting less. So I don't know. I felt like this wasn't supported adequately. But that's pretty much it. I mean, you wrote quite a bit here, but you also have to make sure that you include those vital components to your essay. And of course, each time you state some sort of a main idea, you have to be able to back it up with something. Okay, so let's look at the next paragraph. This is what happens as a result. Okay. Furthermore, it is clear that the current environmental crisis is a result of mass production of goods and humans' lifestyle. We don't really use humans like this. I want you to be careful. You could have said humanities. That's even also a little awkward. How about just the modern lifestyle? It probably would have been a better word. I know some people take issue with the word man. Okay. But human sounds a little strange. So we don't really use human like this. In fact, one thing that I would recommend is take a look at how, what kinds of collocations human is used in, and you'll see that this isn't really accurate. We often use human when we're trying to, perhaps compare people to, say, animals, like when we're talking about species. So here, like different species is what I'm trying to say. So, like I said, here it's not really quite the best word. Okay, this is a consequence of production on large scale, and also the vast amount of waste created with industrial human activities. Now here, human activities is good because compared to the activities of, say, animals or, naturally occurring phenomenon. So here it's okay. For example, recent documentaries from National Geographic have shown, careful, because it's documentaries, have shown, okay, to the public the detrimental effect of industrial activities around the world, where 40% of forests have been destroyed and a great amount of the ocean is now crowded with plastic or other human waste. Therefore, it is undeniably true that our current lifestyle and modern society are, okay, you got two things, current lifestyle and modern society, two things, are responsible for the environmental crisis and damage in natural spaces. Okay, so this is a nice paragraph. I liked it, but I do see one problem with it. All right, let me show you what I mean. Take a look at this. Again, what are the causes and what problems does it lead to? So it's talking about multiple problems. In your paragraph here, you've only focused on one. And so an examiner who's going to look at this really rather strictly is going to say, well, yeah, the environment, the environmental crisis, but where are the other problems? Okay, so I think you probably should have included one more problem. What problem could you possibly have included? Well, a ton. I mean, you could have talked about how a lot of our natural resources are being depleted, because of, this overproduction of things. I mean, is that kind of related to the environment? Yeah, kind of. You also could have talked about how many people are in debt and how much debt there is in general, and credit card debt, and that a lot of people are completely being destroyed financially because of this materialistic way of life. So there were other things you should have said, or you could have maybe talked about the environment and talked about two different things, like this, this idea that we're wasting, that we're throwing away so many things, and we're throwing away so many things and we're creating rubbish, and this leads to pollution. And you could have said it's like a twofold problem because we're also depleting natural resources. So that's one thing you could have done. You could have all put it under the blanket of environmental crisis, but showed that it's a problem that is that has multiple levels. So that's another way you could have dealt with this. All right, let's move on. In conclusion, since the industrial and digital revolutions, the world has been changing, and with globalization, the way people live has been evolving, and it is common to see them being more and more materialistic. All right, the sentence is a little long, and there are too many ands. Look at this. Industrial and digital revolution, and with globalization, and that is common, okay, and more material. So too many. What you're missing here is an opportunity to create a more grammatically complex sentence, okay? Using other types of linkers. There are other ways you could have done this sentence. I'll let you think about what some of those ways are. But let's look at the last sentence here. Additionally, I strongly believe that living in a throwaway society has had a detrimental effect on our environment, which has been massively destroyed to produce on a larger scale. All right, so good things happening in this essay. I mean, you have clearly written quite a bit. I didn't do a word count. I know it's well over 300 words, I can tell. but like I said, there were some errors in terms of your task achievement. Yeah, it was 400. So there are some problems in terms of your task achievement, and I think I've been specific with what they were. Here you needed to support each of your main idea, and here you really needed to have an additional main idea. Okay? So nice writing on the whole, but definitely some stuff that you need to do to get this to the level you want it to be. Let's take a look here at your pizza sales. Fabulous. Okay. Let's see. Fine. The line graph displays information about the number of pizza sales in 3 different European countries per month in 2018. Overall, although there was great fluctuation over the 12 months, France appears to be the country with the highest number of sales. Perfect. Looking at the details, at the beginning of the year, France and Spain sold fewer than 50,000 units of pizza. True. Okay. It's interesting. I wonder why you decided to talk about France and Spain, but let's see. Whereas Portugal sales were around 2 times more. Good. Not on. In the following months, French sales surpassed Portuguese and Spanish pizza sales until June, July, where the Portuguese figure rocketed. Let's see. Okay, fine. What's going on with Portugal? Okay. Over the second half of the year, France sold more pizza than Spain or Portugal, with figures over 100,000. Okay. Additionally, although Portuguese sales plummeted over these months, by December, its sales, you need an S here, recovered, get rid of and, so recovered to almost the same as January's. Conversely, in Spain, pizza sales increased dramatically in July, August, and then decrease steadily. This is a little awkward here, this last sentence. I'm having a hard time reading it, can you tell? Conversely, in Spain, pizza sales increased dramatically in July, August, to then decrease steadily, and by December their sales were just over 50,000. Okay, this is all right. This and you hear me say it like that because I thought a lot of your vocabulary was good. 148 words. I knew it. Okay. What I was going to say before I actually checked your word count is that it feels underdeveloped, and in fact it is. It's under the 150 words that are recommended. And I just felt like you really didn't cover any detail. In other words, you talked about where in a really kind of broad way where those figures were, but you didn't get into any specifics. So, I mean, you really should have mentioned that there was fluctuation in the middle of the year for France. You didn't mention any of that. Okay. Did you mention where the French figure ended? Let me see. Yeah, you just said it was over 100. I guess that I could deal with. But you didn't mention this interesting thing happening here with Portugal. That was pretty important. You didn't mention this incredible dip, did you? Yeah, you did. You mentioned the dip in the second half of the year. But I mean, there was just, you really didn't talk about Spain at all, if you think about it. And there was a lot of stuff you could have done. Now, I understand that doing a graph like this can be very overwhelming because there's 36 pieces of information. You can't possibly cover it all. And I think I've talked about this in other similar line graphs that we have like this. There are tons of ways to do it. Just mention some of those big rises and then mention some of those lows. So for France, for example, you could have said that it started very low at like 20,000 sales, okay, to reach its first of 3 peaks of the year in April at whatever that number is, and then in X and then in Y, okay? So, and then you could have said it also had a couple of dips, however, since you had already mentioned it fluctuated, X and Y here. And here too, you could say. And then you could just talk about where the figure ended in December. For Portugal, same sort of thing. You could say that it started off at the highest point at whatever number that is. It looks around 80,000. It dipped 2 months later to one of its lows because it too has 3 lows, right? So you could talk about its first kind of plummeting figure, which is this, and then you could talk about what happened in August and then in November. You could have also said that it had one major peak in the middle of the year in June, July. Okay, and then of course mention where it ended. And then you're going to do the same kind of thing with Spain. I think this is a nice clear way of doing it. I understand what you did. You divided the year in half, but like I said, I don't feel like you gave enough information, and your word count really just kind of proves that. So I want you to be careful with this sort of thing. All right. These are the things that I want you to improve here. A lot of your vocabulary was great. You had some nice grammar, so all those things were well controlled. I thought your paragraphing was good. You know, it's not that important in task 1, but you still covered it well. Like I said before, I don't disagree with your decision to split the year in half, but you just needed to give a little more information. I think that what I recommended here to do this might have given you different paragraphing, but it would have allowed you to have a better task achievement overall, I think. All right, so Laura, go ahead and correct these, and let's see what happens with your next set. Okay, good luck.